So we spoke on the budget a little earlier, and I'm sure you're also one of those that are perhaps disheartened by some of the implications on the equity market.
I think on balance, the capital gains tax increases, I think that they're not very investor friendly. And we've got enough red tape as it is for any new international companies wanting to come to South Africa, and this is just one more reason for them not to come. So I know, the flavor of the month internationally is to target the super wealthy and the big corporates, mostly because governments haven't been managing finances particularly well.
Is this your view on South Africa, Kimon?
Well, I think I've always loved the Department of Finance. I think on balance, they're the best department in the country. It's the rest of the departments that let us down in terms of delivery. But here, there's only so much blood they can squeeze from a stone with regards to taxes. And I know that the Department of Finance must be a little bit concerned with the rating agencies looking at our deficit.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to try and...
Which came in slightly better than expected, so hopefully we won't get too hurt on that front. What's also interesting to note, and we spoke on this earlier, but let's take the conversation slightly further. Dividend yields. Dividend yield indices might actually get hurt by the fact that we've seen a dividend tax coming in higher than most people had expected. Is that the right assumption to take?
Yes, certainly. There's one less reason to invest in there because there was this... you were doing that for tax reasons and tax purposes. So I think investors will have to reassess their tax structures, and then that should have an impact on those types of funds, certainly, yeah.
When it comes to what we've seen on the corporate earnings front, Kimon, we've actually seen some really nice numbers coming to the fore. Resource companies actually looking quite strong, apart from the platinum sector as well. Resource counters are still dragging us lower in a sense because the top 40 index still has not hit record levels. JSE All Share is faring quite well. Industrials looking quite strong. What is your prognosis on some of the numbers that have actually been released?
I think the balance sheets are looking brilliant if you look across the board, and it's a generalization, but I think the majority of companies are cash flush. I think their indebtedness levels are certainly dropped. I think the valuations are reasonable and to the lower end of what we've had over the past decade or two. So I think on balance, I'm positive on the equity counters. So I think there's a lot of room for upward movement in equities, particularly the big stocks. I think their cash flows are generally quite good. And as you know, I will just avoid companies that reduce their divvies. Those are the first ones that will be bombed out.
Well, it will naturally be reduced because you'll get taxed a whole lot more. So a rotation into various sectors. What kind of cyclical rotation have you been embarking on?
I've still long of resources. I like it, emphasis on Anglos. That for me, that's the play in the resource. It's a good diversified play, and I think it's a takeover target. So, and that's really one of my main reasons for holding it. So I think with the corporate action that we've seen with Xstrata.
So you think Anglo-American is going to be a takeover?
I think it's a target. Whether anything will actually happen or transpire, I'm not quite sure, but I do suspect that it's the best target out there.
So, Kimon, then does the rumor then stand that Anglo Platinum could actually be sold off so that Anglo-American looks slightly more attractive?
I'm not entirely convinced. I think Platinum is a good asset to have. I think one of the reasons I like Anglos is because they're diversified across, 60, 70 countries. I think their assets diversification is great. They don't rely on one single commodity. So, possibly there might be a good reason for them to do it, but I don't think that's going to stand in the way of any kind of takeover.
Do you have exposure to the platinum sector at all?
Yes, and Plats.
And Plats. All right.